Hi there friends, welcome to Classics in Color. My name is Mark Graves. I try to put out a video every week if you'd like to subscribe, and thank you to everyone who is already subscribed. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 of my very favorite examples of Easter eggs, of ancient stuff being incorporated into modern stuff. So I'm really excited for this one, so please don't click away. So, little intro first, real quick. Reception studies, or just reception in general, is when one artist will riff off of, or copy, or reference, or just drop little Easter eggs of somebody else's work into their own. So this was incredibly common in the ancient world. It was a sign of your education, of your ability as an author to be able to weave in threads from all kinds of other sources of people who would come before you. And you could do this either as an homage or to show off your skill or to try to one-up them. It's really fun. I love studying it in an ancient context. But it didn't stop after Rome and Greece fell off. It continued through medieval and Renaissance and modern times. We have Rome and Greece stuff sprinkled in our art and media. Maybe a really obvious example is the Disney movie Hercules, which everyone loves. But there's all different kinds. So I'm going to be talking about 5 of my favorite ones today. So first is the movie Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. This is a very small little Easter egg, but I really love it. So in several times throughout the movie, there are bits of artwork in the background, and some of these are biblical, some of them are statues or paintings, but there is one painting of Venus in the background of Norman's room. And it's called Venus with a Mirror by Titian, and I'll show it obviously, but it's Venus and Cupid is holding a mirror up for her, and there are lots of different things that this could mean or represent. Perhaps the weird mother-son relationship that Norman and his mother have is kind of paralleled here, because Venus and Cupid, not explicitly messed up, but it is a little odd because they both hang out naked all the time and they're both gods of lust. So it's a little suspicious, so maybe that's what it's trying to convey. It's interesting that there's a mirror because there are lots of shots with mirrors in this film, and one of the only times the character actually looks at themselves in a mirror is when Marion first decides that she's going to steal the money. So maybe there's something there. There's also a statue of Cupid later on in the house. So there's lots of different things that maybe this could be hinting at. It's fun to just sort of speculate endlessly, but I love that Venus is in this movie. So next is a book by Pierce Brown. It's called Rhett Rising. There are several now. I've read the first 3, but I definitely recommend them. Not only are they some great books, but also they are chock full of Roman goodness. So the premise of the book is basically Rome in space. Sorry, but it's true, because humanity has expanded out to the planets and their moons, and conveniently all the planets are named Roman gods, and also an empire has developed, basically an evil empire that's ruled by an emperor, and they use lots of Roman terms and organization. I think there's legions and everyone has Roman names. It's really neat. And the main character's name is Darrow. It's actually not Roman. It is British, and I think it means spear, which is kind of a neat little thing by the author. And I love that he is the British-ish character. He has a British name, and he eventually becomes recruited by the Resistance, and he's fighting the Romans, and I love that it's Brits versus Romans, because that's just classic, obviously. So he gets recruited, like I said, by the Resistance after some really sad things happen in his life. And they basically sneak him into the school for the noble children. So the school where they learn how to become ruthless rulers of the galaxy. And it's basically Hunger Games in space. Sorry, last time. But it is because they're in this giant arena and they're mostly unsupervised. And they don't have to kill one another. It's not Well, sometimes they do have to kill each other, but they don't all have to die, basically. But it is allowed and sometimes encouraged for them to kill each other, so it's very ruthless. And Darrow's strategy is another thing that I don't know if the author did this on purpose, but to me, it's reception. Darrow's strategy eventually becomes that he is not trying to be ruthless, although sometimes he is when he has to be, but often he tries to make alliances and to get people to want to be on his side, to make a sort of family and to make people want to feel like they belong. And this was not always, but often a Roman tactic. So sometimes they would just come in and level you and you would be gone, like Carthage. But sometimes they would try to integrate you because this meant that you wouldn't be as pressed to rebel. You would want to be part of the Roman Empire. So, for example, at one point, after they'd warred with the Italians forever, they decided, what if we just give you guys some citizenship and then you can be on our team, which is obviously awesome. And that sort of ended the eternal wars and was really great for Rome. And sometimes they would come in and they would find a local noble or someone and they would boost them up, so then that person is motivated to keep the Romans happy because they gave them their job. But then also the local people are less annoyed because at least their local ruler isn't a Roman and he has some decisions that he can make. He has some control. So it kept everybody happier and more satisfied with Roman rule. So I just love that is what Darrow's strategy is. To me, it's really cool. There are a bunch of other characters, obviously, and they have names like Cassius and Antonia and Pax. And if you know what these mean in Latin, or if you know who these characters were in ancient Rome, it gives you hints about who they are and what's going to happen, and that's also really neat. So this series is just chock full of this stuff, and I definitely recommend you checking out for that, and just because it's a great series. Next is I, Claudius. Duh. This is the most amazing show. It's one of my very favorites. It's basically the original Game of Thrones. It's better in my opinion. Now, it is very old. It's from the 70s. It was put on BBC, and it's very low budget. So their costumes and sets are, you can sometimes tell how low budget they are. And some of the you don't have the big battle scenes on screen, and some of the sex and violence has to take place off screen as well. But it's still happening. All these battles and sex scenes are happening at the time, and people are discussing them and reacting to them, and some stuff does happen on screen that's really great. But what really sells this show is the actors and the dialogue, I think. There are some huge big name actors in this, and they all are from Britain, obviously, and they have amazing British accents. Augustus at one point says this, it must be a British thing, because he says that something happens quicker than boiled asparagus, which I've never heard that anywhere else before, and that doesn't make any sense. Asparagus doesn't boil quickly or anything, but it's there. It's a lovely, ridiculous British-ism. And all the stuff you love from Game of Thrones: incest, intrigue, mad kings, wars, gods, murder. There's so much murder going on. It's all there in abundance, and backstabbing. It's amazing. I love it. Definitely watch it. Then next I'm going to talk about Rap God by the one and only Eminem. So this is a great song, and it is a classic example of an artist or a poet aggrandizing themselves, talking up themselves. This is very common in the ancient world. Ovid, for example, one of my favorite guys, he said that his poetry was a monument more lasting than bronze, and that his poetry was going to be around way after the pyramids are dust. That's how good he is. And so I love it in the ancient world. I love it in Eminem. But there is an example of very specific reception in his music video. So about halfway through, sorry for the rain noises. It's starting to storm here. But about halfway through, there are flashes on screen for about 2 seconds. It's an engraving of Arachne by Gustave Doré. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but so it's an engraving of Arachne that he made for an edition of Dante's Purgatory. So the myth of Arachne, really quick, is she was just an ordinary person, which is kind of unusual for a myth. but also really cool. So she was just a chick, but she was really good at weaving, which was an important skill in the ancient world because you have to make all your clothes, but it's also a revered art form because tapestries were a common form of art. And she is crazy wicked good, and she gets a little cocky about it, and at one point someone is complimenting her and saying, oh, you should thank your lucky stars, bless Athena that you were so good at this, because Athena is the goddess of weaving, and she says, screw Athena, like, I tell myself I'm good because of me. And Athena hears this, and them is fighting words, so she descends from Mount Olympus in the disguise of an old woman, and she comes to Arachne, and she says, are you sure about that, dearie? Are you sure you don't want to take that one back? And Arachne is like, heck no. Then Athena takes off her disguise, and is like, are you still sure? And Arachne is like a little scared, but she sticks to her guns and is like, come at me. So they have a contest, and Arachne is doing her thing, and Athena's doing her thing. And Athena does this beautiful tapestry of the greatest moments of the gods, hits of the gods, and her greatest honors and achievements. And then Arachne is doing a tapestry of all the different times that gods have raped mortals. And this list is like so long. There are so many. So her tapestry is way more complicated and intricate and involved. And it's also a great, F you to the gods. Like, you guys just suck. You're the worst. So Athena gets done, and she looks at Arachne's, and she's really furious because, one, it's this insult to the gods, but then two, it's better than hers. So she tears the tapestry in two, and then she starts beating Arachne, and then Arachne, to escape, grabs one of her threads and tries to kill herself. And Athena, whether out of pity or whether she didn't want Arachne to escape and she wanted to have her eternal revenge, she turns Arachne into a spider, and Arachne is the Greek word for spider. So that's the myth. And this engraving is of Arachne in a sort of tortured pose, and she's already turning into the spider, and it flashes on screen. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this, why this is included. It seems a little odd to me because I usually sympathize with Arachne because she's the mortal and because she was right and because she was better, like she won. But maybe what Eminem is getting at here is, even if you're talented, even if you take a couple good shots at me, like even if you insult me, I'm still so far above you, I can destroy you without an effort. Like, it's not even a question. So maybe that's what he's getting at here. I don't know, but I love that it is here. So finally is the video game Apotheon. Now, I know it's not Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I haven't played it yet. Honestly, I'm kind of intimidated, but I love Apotheon. It's so much fun. It's a 2D scroller, and the art theme of it is that it imitates a Greek vase. So that's why it's 2D, and everything is sort of black and red, and you're going across this vase, I guess. Now, Apotheon means, or Apotheosis, which is what Apotheon comes from, means becoming a god. So the premise of the game is that you have to go around and either befriend or fight the different gods to gain their powers and become the most powerful god. So it's really fun, and all the levels are designed for the different gods. So Athena's is a maze, obviously, and Apollo, you have to find your way in the dark and then get the sun power. And then I love what they do with Aphrodite because you have to get Cupid to shoot her on accident, which is perfect for her because that's one of her weaknesses. And there's lots of little details too. So you run into different heroes from Greek myth, and you also run into satyrs. And all the satyrs have phalluses on them, which is perfect because they're always portrayed that way. Check out the video. And they are also drinking. So you have to infiltrate their party and smash up all their wine, which is just, it's perfect. It's so on point, and it's full of all these little details, and it's so fun to play, and it's so beautiful, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. So that is 5 of my favorites. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment below if you have any suggestions for part 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again next time. Thank you. Karate!